Look up into the night sky. There, suspended in the velvet black, is our moon. It feels ancient, singular, a constant and lonely companion on our journey through the cosmos. We have written poems about its solitude, sung songs of its solitary light, and accepted its oneness as a fundamental truth of our world. But what if that loneliness is not a primordial state, but the result of a profound and forgotten loss? What if the Earth was not born with a single guardian, but was cradled with a sibling to its silver satellite, a second moon, now vanished? This is not just a question of astronomy, but of memory. It asks if the very rhythm of our world, its tides, its nights, and perhaps even the genesis of life itself, are all shaped by a ghost, a hollow echo in the space where a celestial body once danced. This is the kind of mystery that whispers from the deep past, a story hidden in the fabric of space-time itself. It challenges us to look at the familiar and see what might be missing, to listen for a silence that was once a song. If you enjoy following these quiet echoes and exploring the great what-ifs of our universe, consider subscribing to our channel. Together we can journey through these forgotten chapters of history, piecing together the puzzles that lie just beyond the edge of our understanding. Each question is a doorway, and tonight we step through one that redefines our planet's very beginning. We look up at one moon, but we are searching for the shadow of two, a phantom limb in our sky that may have sculpted the world we know today. To find the ghost, we must travel back to a time almost beyond comprehension. Our destination is the Hadean Eon, approximately 4.2 billion years ago. The Earth we would find is a violent, molten adolescent, a world barely recognizable as our own. Its surface is a churning canvas of magma oceans and nascent, black basaltic crusts, constantly scarred by the fiery debris of a young and chaotic solar system. There are no continents as we know them, only volcanic islands rising and sinking in a boiling acidic sea. The atmosphere is a toxic, suffocating veil of methane, ammonia, and water vapor, glowing with the perpetual, ghostly aurora of a ferocious solar wind. This is not a blue marble, but a glowing, red-hot ember, a planet in the violent throes of its own creation. And in this blood-orange sky, a sight of impossible beauty and power unfolds. There is not one, but two moons. The first is Luna, the familiar silver titan we know, its bright, steady light a beacon in the toxic haze. But beside it, in a complex and resonant dance, is its smaller, darker twin. We will call it Umbra. It is a body of deep charcoal gray rock that reflects little light, appearing less like a celestial body and more like a hole in the cosmos, a perfect void against the distant star fields. They orbit in a gravitational duet that defines this primordial epoch, a constant ballet of silver and shadow. The nights are never truly dark. They are a perpetual twilight of shifting light, a world painted in the stark contrast of Luna's glow and Umbra's passing silhouette. This celestial duet was not a gentle waltz. It was a performance of immense and world-shaping power. The combined gravitational pull of Luna and Umbra subjected the young Earth to titanic tidal forces, far beyond anything we experience today. The magma oceans and early water seas were not pulled in a simple ebb and flow, but in a complex, churning vortex. Waves of molten rock, hundreds of meters high, scoured the planet's surface, a relentless tide of fire that prevented the formation of stable continents and erased any feature that tried to rise. This was the planet's first pulse, a double-hearted beat that dictated the rhythm of its geology. It was a violent, chaotic, yet predictable cadence of creation and destruction, a planetary heartbeat set by two masters in the sky. Yet, in this very chaos, a fragile possibility stirred. Deep beneath the acidic, boiling oceans, shielded from the constant bombardment from above, life was taking its first tentative hold. In the superheated water of hydrothermal vents, the first single-celled organisms clung to existence, their entire world defined by the relentless, dual tidal rhythm imposed from above. The chemistry of their environment, the flow of nutrients, the very pressure of the water around them, all moved to the beat of this two-moon dance. This was not just a geological phenomenon. It was the metronome for the dawn of biology. The first, faint whisper of life on Earth was born into a world with two moons, its earliest lullaby, a song of gravitational chaos sung by a silver giant and its dark, phantom twin. The story of our world as we understand it begins with a singular cataclysmic event. Science calls it the giant impact hypothesis, a theory that holds the elegance of cosmic poetry. It tells us that shortly after its formation, the nascent Earth was struck by a Mars-sized protoplanet named Theia. The collision was an act of planetary alchemy, a blast of unimaginable energy that vaporized both bodies and hurled a cloud of molten rock and gas into orbit. Over millennia, gravity, the patient sculptor of the cosmos, gathered this incandescent debris. It spun and coalesced, cooling into the spherical body we now call the Moon. This is our accepted creation myth, a story of violent birth that left Earth with a single, massive, and eternally faithful companion. It is a clean, powerful narrative that explains so much about our world. This solitary moon became the silent architect of Earth's rhythm. Its gravitational pull is the steady hand that stirs our oceans, creating the predictable ebb and flow of the tides, a pulse that has beaten for billions of years. It acts as an anchor, stabilizing our planet's axial tilt, preventing the wild wobbles that would otherwise cause catastrophic climate shifts and make complex life nearly impossible. Luna's presence slowed Earth's frantic primordial rotation, lengthening our days from a mere 6 hours to the 24 we now experience. In every sense, the moon is not just a rock in our sky. It is our partner, the metronome that set the tempo for life's slow, deliberate evolution. Our world is calibrated to its presence, a system seemingly perfect in its singular design. Yet, when we look deep into the past, into the abyss of geologic time, the clean edges of this perfect narrative begin to fray. Our scientific models are brilliant, but they are built upon a foundational assumption that this single moon has always been our only significant satellite since its formation. They are equations written for a solo performance. But what if the stage was once more crowded? What if the initial conditions of our world were fundamentally different? Science progresses by questioning its own assumptions, by looking into the quiet static between the known signals. And in the deepest layers of Earth's memory, there are whispers of a different beginning. A time when the sky's familiar script may have had another major character, whose lines have been completely erased. The greatest challenge in reading this ancient history is the Earth itself. Our planet is a master of self-erasure, a world with geological amnesia. The crust of the early Earth, the very ground that would have witnessed a two-moon sky, has long since been destroyed. Through the relentless engine of plate tectonics, ancient seabeds and primordial continents have been subducted, dragged back into the mantle, their secrets melted down and recycled. What wasn't swallowed by the planet's internal fire was ground down by billions of years of wind, water, and ice. The evidence of the past is not simply buried. For the most part, it has been systematically obliterated. To find clues, we must search for the faintest of ghosts in the geological machine, the rare survivors of this planetary memory wipe. Some of the most tantalizing of these ghosts are found in ancient rocks known as tidalites. These are sedimentary layers laid down in coastal areas, their fine-grained patterns acting as a fossilized record of tidal cycles. Each layer represents the ebb and flow of water, a delicate chronicle of the moon's gravitational dance written in stone. In most cases, these records align perfectly with our models. But in a few rare preserved sections of crust from the Archean Eon, over 3 billion years ago, geologists have found anomalies. The patterns are too complex, too powerful. They suggest tidal forces far more chaotic and extreme than our single moon could have ever produced on its own. They hint at a more complicated rhythm, a time when the oceans were not just pulled, but violently churned by a second, unseen force. This geological mystery is echoed in the biological record. The earliest evidence of life on Earth comes from stromatolites, layered structures built by colonies of cyanobacteria. As these microbes grew towards the sun, they trapped sediment, creating distinct layers that correspond to daily and seasonal cycles of light and tides. They are, in essence, some of the oldest clocks on our planet, their growth patterns a direct response to the celestial environment. For billions of years, these living clocks have ticked in time, with Luna's steady rhythm. But again, when we examine the most ancient of these fossils, the oldest hands on the clock, we find a tempo that seems alien to us. The cycles they record are strange, with overlapping patterns that don't neatly fit the simple mathematics of a one-moon, one-sun system. What could account for these aberrant rhythms? The growth layers in these primordial stromatolites suggest a world with a more intricate light schedule. Perhaps the nights were not uniformly dark, but were interrupted by a second, dimmer source of illumination, or by a passing shadow that altered the predictable cycle of moonlight. The complex tidal signatures in the rock correspond perfectly with the chaotic growth patterns in these first life forms. It's as if both the planet and its earliest inhabitants were dancing to a beat we can no longer hear, a syncopated, two-part harmony composed by a pair of celestial conductors. Could this be the faint biological signature of Umbra, the ghost moon, preserved in the very architecture of nascent life? The clues are not confined to our planet. When astrophysicists attempt to model the Earth-Moon system and rewind its history, they encounter a persistent and frustrating barrier. Using the laws of physics, they can trace our moon's orbit backward in time, watching it get closer and closer to Earth. The models work beautifully for the last 3 billion years or so. But as they push further back beyond that threshold, the equations break down. The system becomes unstable, dissolving into a state of mathematical chaos that our computers cannot resolve with the known variables. It's as if there's a missing piece in the puzzle, a gravitational influence that was present in the early solar system but has since vanished, leaving behind only this wall of uncertainty in our calculations. This wall of chaos, as some have called it, is not a failure of our science, but a profound clue. It tells us that the simple, elegant system we see today may be the simplified result of a far more complex and unstable past. The models are screaming that something is missing from the equation. They are pointing to a ghost in the gravitational machine, a variable that existed in the Hadean and early Archean eons and then disappeared, allowing the Earth-Moon system to settle into the stable, predictable duet we now know. This mathematical anomaly aligns perfectly with the geological and biological evidence, painting a consistent picture of a primordial world that operated under a different set of celestial rules. So we are left with fragments, whispers from disparate fields of science, that all seem to be telling the same forgotten story. Geologists find impossible tides written in ancient stone. Paleontologists discover alien rhythms recorded in the first stirrings of life. Astrophysicists hit a wall of chaos when they try to look back to the very beginning. Each of these is a fascinating puzzle on its own. But when viewed together, they cease to be isolated anomalies. They become a chorus of evidence, a convergence of clues, all pointing toward a single radical conclusion, that the loneliness of our moon is a recent development, and our planet's true infancy was spent under the watchful eyes of two celestial guardians. The question, then, is no longer just a flight of fancy. It is a legitimate scientific mystery, built on a foundation of observable, albeit faint, data. We are following a trail of breadcrumbs that has survived for 4 billion years, leading us away from the comfortable narrative of a single, constant companion. This journey forces us to reconsider the very nature of our world's stability. We have always seen our planet's life-giving calm as a birthright, a fortunate constant in a chaotic universe. But what if it wasn't? What if this peace was not a given, but a condition that was only achieved after the loss of a foundational piece of our cosmic architecture? What if our world had to lose a moon to find its balance? To search for a ghost 4 billion years old, we must first understand the nature of its hiding place. The Earth is not a static museum. It is a living, breathing organism with a notoriously poor memory. Its skin, the crust, is in a constant state of renewal. Through the slow, inexorable engine of plate tectonics, the very ground that would have witnessed a two-moon sky has been systematically destroyed. Ancient ocean floors, which would have held the clearest record of primordial tides, have been dragged back into the planet's molten mantle, their secrets melted down and reforged into new rock. What tectonics didn't swallow, the patient forces of erosion, wind, water, and ice, ground to dust over eons. Our planet, in its relentless drive to recycle itself, is the ultimate concealer of its own deepest history. This process of geological amnesia means that direct proof, a smoking gun from the Hadean eon, is likely lost to us forever. We cannot simply drill into the Earth and find a pristine layer of rock unambiguously marked by the presence of two moons. The library of Earth's earliest days has burned down. The pages are ash, the ink has faded into vapor. We are left to search for ghosts in the machine, for faint spectral traces that survived the fire. These are not bold headlines in the geological record, but subtle footnotes, anomalies that quietly defy our conventional understanding. They are the whispers that remain after the shouting has ceased, clues hidden not in what is there, but in the subtle inconsistencies of what was left behind. And it is in these inconsistencies that our search begins. While the original book of Earth's history is gone, a few scattered, charred pages remain. These are incredibly ancient sections of continental crust known as cratons, islands of stability that have somehow avoided the furnace of subduction for billions of years. Within these geological sanctuaries, we find rocks that act as time capsules, preserving faint echoes of the world in which they were formed. It is here, in these last remnants of a forgotten Earth, that we can listen for the planet's lost heartbeat. The evidence is not obvious, nor is it singular. It is a convergence of subtle clues from different scientific disciplines, all pointing to a profound deviation in our planet's accepted origin story. One of the most compelling of these clues is written in stone, in ancient sedimentary formations known as tidalites. Think of them as the Earth's primordial calendars, meticulously recording the gravitational dance between planet and moon. As tides ebb and flow, they deposit fine layers of silt and sand, creating a delicate, repeating pattern in the rock. Each layer marks a cycle, a rhythmic pulse of the ancient oceans. For billions of years, these stone calendars have recorded the simple, predictable rhythm of Luna's influence. They are a testament to a stable, consistent system, a story of a single moon keeping time for a world. But when we look at the very oldest of these records, the story they tell becomes far more complex and far more violent. In the rare preserved tidalites from the Archean Eon, dating back over 3 billion years, the familiar, gentle rhythm disappears. The patterns become chaotic, powerful, and intricate. They speak of tidal forces far more extreme than our lone moon, even at a closer orbit, could have possibly generated on its own. The layers suggest not a simple two-way pull between Earth and Moon, but a complex, multi-body gravitational war being waged upon the oceans. The stone records a syncopated, almost discordant rhythm, as if two different drummers were playing at once, their beats interfering with one another to create a powerful, churning resonance. What could possibly account for such a complex and energetic signature written into the very bedrock of our world? This geological puzzle forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about our planet's youth. Was the early Earth-Moon system not the stable duet we imagine it to be? Could another significant gravitational player have been present, its influence briefly captured in these ancient rocks before it vanished from the cosmic stage? The chaotic signatures align perfectly with theoretical models of a two-moon system. The combined and competing gravitational pulls of a large Luna and a smaller, perhaps eccentrically orbiting umbra would create exactly these kinds of supertides and complex, overlapping patterns. The rocks, it seems, are remembering a time when the oceans did not just rise and fall, but were violently churned by the competing wills of two celestial masters. This geological mystery finds a haunting echo in the biological record. The first evidence of life on Earth is preserved in stromatolites, layered structures built by vast colonies of cyanobacteria. These ancient microbes were phototrophs, their lives dictated by the daily cycle of sunlight. As they grew, they trapped thin layers of sediment, creating a living fossil that recorded the rhythms of their environment. In essence, stromatolites are the planet's oldest clocks, their growth patterns a direct response to the celestial metronome of light, darkness, and tides. For most of Earth's history, these living clocks have ticked in perfect time with the sun and our single moon, their layers marking a clear and predictable pattern of days and nights. But once again, when we examine the most ancient of these fossils, the first ticks of life's clock, the rhythm feels alien. The growth patterns are strange, with irregular, overlapping layers that do not neatly fit the simple mathematics of a one-sun, one-moon system. They hint at a more complicated light schedule, a primordial day-night cycle that was not a simple binary of on and off. It's as if the darkness of night was not a guaranteed constant, but was frequently interrupted or altered. What could cause Earth's first living organisms to record such a complex and seemingly erratic schedule? Were the primordial nights not uniformly dark, but a shifting tapestry of bright moonlight, deep shadow, and perhaps a second fainter glow? The presence of a second moon, umbra, provides a startlingly elegant explanation for these biological anomalies. Imagine a dark, charcoal-gray body, reflecting little light, periodically passing in front of the brilliant silvery Luna. This would create complex eclipses, casting vast, moving shadows that would interrupt the steady moonlight that early life relied upon. Or perhaps umbra orbited in a different plane, offering its own dim, ghostly light at different times of the night. This would create a world of perpetual twilight, a complex dance of light and shadow that would be faithfully recorded in the growth layers of the stromatolites. The biology and the geology begin to sing in harmony, both telling a story of a more crowded, chaotic sky. The clues are not confined to our planet. When we turn our gaze outward and use the laws of physics to model the history of the Earth-Moon system, a third, even more profound anomaly emerges. Using powerful supercomputers, Astrophysicists can run the clock backward, tracing our moon's orbit through time. As we go further into the past, the moon gets closer to the Earth, its gravitational influence growing stronger. This model works beautifully, its predictions aligning with geological data for the last 3 billion years or so. But as the simulation approaches the 4 billion year mark, a wall appears. The elegant, predictable equations of orbital mechanics suddenly break down, dissolving into a state of mathematical chaos that our computers cannot resolve. This barrier is not a flaw in our understanding of physics, nor is it a limitation of our technology. It is a ghost in the machine. The models are screaming that a piece of the puzzle is missing. The system, as it is currently defined with only the Earth and Luna as its major components, becomes fundamentally unstable that far back in time. The math tells us that the simple, elegant system we see today could not have existed in its current form during the Hadean Eon. It's a mathematical wall telling us that the initial conditions were different. Something else was there, another gravitational influence that shaped the early system and then disappeared, allowing it to settle into the stable, predictable configuration we know today. Could Umbra be that missing variable? Could the presence of a second, smaller moon be the key that unlocks this mathematical paradox? When theorists tentatively add a third body into their early solar system simulations, the wall of chaos can, under certain conditions, recede. The system becomes more complex, but also more stable in its primordial state. The ghost in the machine of physics may be a literal ghost moon, its gravitational signature the missing term in our equations of the past. The astrophysics, the geology, and the biology, three disparate fields of science, all begin to point toward the same radical conclusion, converging on a single, astonishing possibility that challenges the very foundation of our planetary story. Each piece of evidence, viewed in isolation, could perhaps be explained away as a mere curiosity. The tidal lights? Perhaps an unknown resonance with the sun, or a period of extreme geological activity. The stromatolites? Maybe an undocumented quirk in the metabolism of early microbes. The wall of chaos in our models? It could simply be a sign that our understanding of primordial planetary dynamics is incomplete. In science, it is always easier to find a conventional explanation for a single anomaly than to propose a revolutionary new theory. But when these anomalies cease to be isolated incidents and instead form a consistent, interlocking pattern, we must have the courage to consider what they are telling us collectively. Mysteries like this are just fragments of a much larger story. If you enjoy following these hidden clues, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next discovery. We are not looking at one loose thread, but three, each pulled from a different part of the scientific tapestry, and all appearing to be made of the same strange, unknown material. One is a geological thread of impossible tides, another, a biological thread of alien rhythms, and the third, a mathematical thread of gravitational chaos. Separately, they are puzzles. Together, they are a map that points to a gaping hole in our history, a void in the sky where something used to be. This convergence of evidence elevates the idea of a second moon from a mere flight of fancy to a legitimate scientific hypothesis. It becomes a potential solution to several long-standing and unrelated problems in our understanding of the early Earth. It is a theory that, while lacking direct proof, possesses a powerful explanatory elegance. It resolves the strange signatures in the ancient rocks, it accounts for the bizarre growth patterns of the first life, and it provides the missing piece needed to make our astrophysical models of the past coherent and stable. The ghost of Umbra begins to feel less like a phantom and more like a solid, gravitational reality that our science is only now beginning to rediscover. The implications of this are profound. We have long viewed our planet's life-giving stability, its gentle tides, its stable axis, its predictable seasons, as a fortunate birthright, a set of initial conditions that made our existence possible. But what if this stability was not a beginning, but an outcome? What if the peace our world enjoys was not a gift, but a prize won only after a period of unimaginable chaos? The evidence suggests that our planet was born into a far more violent and unpredictable environment, a world constantly battered and reshaped by the gravitational whims of two moons. Our calm, serene Earth may be a survivor, a world that only found its balance after a foundational piece of its cosmic architecture was lost. This forces us to reevaluate the very narrative of evolution. Life on Earth did not begin in a gentle, warm little pond, as Darwin once mused, but in a boiling, acidic ocean being violently churned by chaotic, competing tides. The first organisms were not born into tranquility, but into a maelstrom. They had to survive not just the chemical hostility of their environment, but the physical brutality of a world with a double heartbeat. Could this extreme environment have been a catalyst for life's development, forcing it to become more resilient, more adaptable, right from its very inception? Perhaps the struggle for existence began not with competition between species, but with a planet-wide struggle against the sky itself. We are confronted with a paradigm shift in our understanding of normal. Our entire scientific framework is built upon the observation of the world as it is now, with its single, constant lunar companion. We extrapolate this present state back into the deep past, assuming a certain uniformity. Yet the whispers from the Archean eon suggest this assumption may be fundamentally flawed. We may be trying to understand the childhood of our planet by looking at a photograph of its old age, failing to account for a dramatic and transformative event that reshaped its entire character. The search for Umbra is a search for a completely different set of initial conditions, a different normal that set the stage for everything that was to follow. The evidence, though circumstantial, paints a consistent and compelling picture. In the oldest rocks, we see a record of tides too powerful for one moon. In the oldest fossils, we find life dancing to a rhythm we no longer hear. In our most advanced computer models, we see a gravitational void that demands to be filled. Each of these clues is a faint echo, a distorted reflection of a celestial body that has been gone for nearly 4 billion years. We are like archaeologists who have not found the lost city itself, but have found its profound influence on the trade routes, the pottery, and the legends of all the surrounding cultures. This trail of scientific breadcrumbs leads us away from the comfortable narrative of a singular, lonely moon, and toward a far more dynamic and chaotic past. It suggests that our world's story is not a simple, linear progression, but one marked by a profound and forgotten loss. We are the inhabitants of a world that may have been fundamentally altered by the disappearance of a major celestial object. The very length of our day, the tilt of our axis, the strength of our tides, and perhaps the very pace of evolution might all be consequences of this ancient cosmic amputation. We live in the aftermath of an event we never knew happened. So we stand at a precipice of understanding, peering into an abyss of time where the familiar rules may not apply. The scientific case for Umbra is not closed. Far from it. It is a nascent hypothesis built on faint signatures and tantalizing correlations. Yet, it provides a unifying framework for a host of mysteries that have long puzzled scientists. It gives us a new lens through which to view the dawn of our world, transforming isolated anomalies into a coherent, albeit ghostly, narrative. The faint footprints are there, preserved in stone, life, and mathematics, waiting for us to recognize the path they form. The question then becomes not just what if, but what next? How do we search for more definitive proof of something that has been gone for so long? The Earth has erased most of the clues, but our solar system is a vast place. Perhaps other, more stable surfaces hold a record that our own planet could not keep. The search for Umbra forces us to look beyond our own world, to its silent companions in the solar system, for the missing pages of our own autobiography. The mystery of the second moon is not just about understanding the past. It is about charting a new course for future discovery, a quest to confirm the existence of a ghost. To find a ghost, one does not search for a body. You search for the cold spots in the room, for the flicker of a candle in a windless space, for the faint, unexplainable whisper in the silence. The hunt for Umbra is no different. We are not looking for the moon itself, but for the gravitational and geological anomalies it left behind. These are the cold spots in our planet's history, the moments in the deep past where the laws of nature seem to bend, where the story our world tells about itself suddenly falters. They are the universe's way of whispering that a piece of the narrative is missing, a character has been written out of the script, leaving behind only strange, inexplicable stage directions. Think of it as a form of celestial phantom limb syndrome. An amputee can often feel a ghost of the limb that is no longer there, an itch, a twitch, a persistent ache, where there is only empty space. It is the memory of the nerves, a neurological echo of what was lost. Could a planet experience something similar? Could the Earth's gravitational and magnetic fields hold a faint, residual memory of a massive body that was once part of its system? The anomalies we find in the ancient rock are perhaps not just clues, but the geological twitches of this phantom limb, the planet unconsciously aching for a companion that has been gone for 4 billion years. This concept isn't entirely without a terrestrial parallel. Consider the great unconformity, one of geology's most profound mysteries. Across the world, there is a stark boundary in the rock record, where over a billion years of history has been completely erased. Layers of rock from 500 million years ago sit directly on top of rock that is well over 1.5 billion years old. A quarter of the planet's history is simply gone, as if it were scoured clean by an unknown global force. What could possess such power? What if this wasn't just erosion, but the final, violent death throes of a two-moon system, where the chaotic, world-breaking tides planed the continents down to their roots before Umbra finally vanished? The Earth, in this sense, is like a palimpsest, an ancient manuscript that has been scraped clean and written over, but whose original text can still be faintly discerned beneath the new. Plate tectonics is the scribe, relentlessly erasing the old stories of the Hadean Eon. Volcanism is the new ink, covering the old words with fresh layers of basalt. But in the oldest cratons, those sections of the manuscript too tough to be fully erased, the ghost of the original text remains. The strange tidalites and anomalous isotopic ratios are the faint, ghostly letters of that first draft of history, a story of two moons that we are only now learning how to read. We see these ghostly letters in the planet's elemental composition. In certain ancient zircons, tiny, almost indestructible crystals that are Earth's oldest time capsules, we find isotopic ratios that are difficult to explain. They contain traces of gases and elements that suggest they were formed in an environment with a chemistry slightly different from the one we model for the early Earth. It's like finding a single unfamiliar spice in an old family recipe. Could these anomalies be the chemical fingerprint of Umbra? Perhaps our second moon was a carbonaceous body, rich in volatiles and organic compounds, and as it orbited, it dusted the young Earth with its material, subtly altering the chemistry of the primordial crust in ways we are just now detecting. This is not so different from trying to reconstruct a lost civilization from fragments of its pottery. An archaeologist might find a shard with a unique glaze or an unfamiliar pattern, and deduce the existence of a previously unknown trading partner. A culture whose influence was felt, but whose cities are lost to time. The isotopic anomalies in our planet's oldest rocks are our geological pottery shards. They do not show us a picture of Umbra, but they hint at its influence, its chemical trade with our nascent world. They are the faint but persistent evidence of a foreign presence that was once an intimate part of our planetary household. The metaphor of a scratched record is perhaps even more fitting. Imagine the history of life on Earth as a long, continuous piece of music. For the last 3.5 billion years, it has been a largely consistent melody, a song of evolution played to the steady rhythm of a single moon and a single sun. But if you listen to the very beginning of the recording, the first few moments of the track, you hear something else. You hear a chaotic, discordant noise, the deep, violent scratches of the stromatolite and tidalite records. It's as if the needle was dropped onto a spinning record with immense force, scarring it before it settled into its proper groove. That initial chaos is the sound of two moons. We have spent centuries studying the beautiful music that follows, marveling at its complexity and harmony, while dismissing the noise at the beginning as an irrelevant, unexplainable artifact of a primitive recording. But what if that noise is the most important part of the song? What if it is the overture, the chaotic theme that sets the stage for everything that follows? The alien rhythms recorded in the planet's first life are not a mistake. They are a memory of a different tempo, a time when the world did not dance to a simple waltz, but to a violent, unpredictable polyrhythm conducted by two celestial masters in the sky. Every time we peel back one layer of this mystery, another appears beneath it. If that kind of deep exploration resonates with you, consider subscribing to follow along as we uncover more. These aren't just scientific puzzles. They are chapters in a story we are all a part of, a story about the very ground beneath our feet and the sky above our heads. The journey to understand our origins is a long one, and each question is a step further into the past, a step closer to a truth that has been waiting for billions of years to be rediscovered. This two-moon hypothesis also offers a potential solution to another long-standing cosmic puzzle, the faint young sun paradox. Our models of stellar evolution tell us that 4 billion years ago, our sun was about 30% dimmer and weaker than it is today. Under such a faint sun, the early Earth should have been a frozen ball of ice. Yet, the geological evidence is unequivocal. The planet was a molten world with vast oceans of liquid water. The conventional explanation is a supercharged greenhouse effect, but the required atmospheric concentrations are difficult to model. But what if there was another heat source? Imagine the immense friction generated by the gravitational pull of two moons churning a planet of molten rock. The tidal forces we described were not just moving the magma oceans, They were constantly kneading the planet's very core and mantle. This process, known as tidal heating, would have generated a colossal amount of internal energy, keeping the Earth molten and warm from the inside out, regardless of the sun's weakness. Umbra's presence could be the missing furnace in our planetary equation, the internal fire that kept our world alive long enough for the sun to come into its full strength. In this light, Earth becomes an unreliable narrator of its own history. It tells us a story of a world warmed by the sun and governed by a single moon, because that has been its reality for nearly all of its existence. It has forgotten its own chaotic infancy. The anomalies are the moments where its story breaks down, where the narrative contradicts itself. Like a person recounting a traumatic event from their distant past, the planet's memory is fragmented, with key details missing or distorted. Our job as scientists is to act as cosmic therapists, piecing together the fragments to reconstruct the true, forgotten event that shaped our world's entire subsequent life. This is much like trying to understand the history of a great river. We can see its present course, the wide, gentle way it flows to the sea. We can see the valleys it has carved over millennia. But we might find, high up in the surrounding hills, strange, water-worn stones and misplaced channels of silt. These are the signs of a far more violent past, a time when the river was not a gentle stream but a raging glacial torrent that carved a completely different path. The anomalous tidalites are those water-worn stones on the hilltops, evidence that the river of time on our planet once flowed with a power and a direction that we can barely comprehend. Think of the difference between a single bell ringing in a quiet tower and a full carillon, with dozens of bells of different sizes ringing at once. The single bell creates a pure, predictable tone, a clear and simple rhythm. The carillon creates a complex, cascading wave of sound, full of harmonics, interference, and overlapping echoes. The early Earth did not listen to a single bell. It was born inside the deafening roar of a celestial carillon. The complex signatures in the rocks and in the earliest life are the fossilized echoes of that complex, overwhelming music that played at the dawn of time. This also forces us to reconsider the very nature of evidence. In our everyday world, we rely on direct observation, on clear cause and effect. But when we look into the abyss of deep time, the rules change. Direct evidence is a luxury that no longer exists. We are left with circumstantial cases, with patterns of subtle correlation. It is like a detective arriving at a crime scene, billions of years too late. There is no body, no weapon, no witnesses. All that remains is a faint disturbance in the background radiation of the universe, a strange echo in a rock, a story that doesn't quite add up. The absence of evidence, in this context, can be a form of evidence itself. The fact that our best models of the early Earth-Moon system break down, the fact that they create a wall of chaos beyond which they cannot see, is profoundly significant. It is the mathematical equivalent of a locked door. It tells us that our key, the assumption of a single moon, is the wrong one. The anomaly is the model's refusal to work, a silent, computational protest against a history that is incomplete. The ghost of Umbra is found not just in what is there, but in what is missing from our equations. This is a story told in shadows. We cannot see Umbra, but we can see the long, dark shadow it cast upon the nascent Earth. This shadow is visible in the violent tides that prevented the continents from forming. It is visible in the complex eclipses that altered the rhythm of the primordial night, a rhythm recorded by the first living cells. It is visible in the extra heat that kept our planet from freezing under a faint young sun. We are piecing together the shape of a forgotten object by carefully tracing the outline of its shadow, a shadow that has been stretched and distorted across 4 billion years of history. It is a profound shift in perspective. We are accustomed to thinking of our world as a place of constants, a system defined by its stability. But the anomalies suggest that our world is instead a survivor of an ancient instability. It is like meeting a calm, gentle adult and then slowly learning that they endured a childhood of unimaginable chaos and trauma. The calm we see is not their original state, but a hard-won peace. The Earth's life-giving tranquility may not be a birthright, but a scar, a quiet that was only achieved after the screaming of its chaotic youth finally stopped. These anomalies are not just curiosities for geologists and astrophysicists. They have implications for the very story of life itself. We often imagine life beginning in a warm little pond, a cradle of gentle, nurturing stability. But the evidence of a two-moon system paints a very different picture. Life was born not in a cradle, but in a crucible. It was forged in a boiling, acidic ocean, under a toxic sky, all while being violently shaken by the gravitational chaos of a celestial war overhead. This was not a gentle birth. It was a trial by fire, water, and gravity. Could this brutal beginning have been necessary? Perhaps the extreme environmental stress was the catalyst that life needed. The relentless, chaotic churning of the oceans might have accelerated the chemical reactions necessary for abiogenesis, mixing the primordial soup with a planetary-scale violence that a single moon could never provide. Perhaps the constant threat of destruction forced early life to become more resilient, more adaptable, from its very first moments. Maybe the story of life on Earth is not about thriving in spite of this chaos, but because of it. Ultimately, the anomalies and metaphors serve as a bridge, connecting the cold, hard data of science to the deeper, more human quest for meaning and origin. They allow us to feel the pull of a ghost moon, to hear the discordant music of the primordial tides, to imagine a world fundamentally different from our own. They transform abstract scientific problems into a narrative, a story of loss, memory, and survival on a planetary scale. They are the tools we must use to read the planet's forgotten poetry. We are left standing before a collection of beautiful, inexplicable artifacts, a stone that records an impossible tide, a fossil that keeps an alien time, an equation that collapses into chaos. Viewed alone, each is a puzzle, but when placed together, they begin to look like the scattered fragments of a single, coherent, and magnificent structure that is no longer standing. They are the ruins of a different genesis, and our task is to survey these ruins and imagine the shape of the cathedral that once stood in their place, a cathedral built for two gods in the sky. With the confirmation of Umbra's existence, the quiet, academic ghost stories of science have become real. The equations that once led to a wall of chaos now point to a tangible, physical loss. But the lunar samples, while providing the definitive what, offer no insight into the how or the why. The slow, gentle fading of our second moon, its strange, spiraling departure away from Earth, defies a simple gravitational explanation. A violent ejection would have left a trail of debris. A collision would have scarred Luna permanently. This was something else. A quiet, deliberate exit. To understand it, we must leave the realm of established physics and dare to enter the world of structured speculation, where logic and imagination must walk hand in hand. We must begin by asking a question that feels almost like heresy to our understanding of the cosmos. What if Umbra was not natural? What if it was never a moon in the traditional sense, but something far more complex? Imagine for a moment that our second moon was an artifact, a piece of engineering on a scale so vast that the concept of technology itself seems inadequate. A great machine, placed in orbit around the nascent Earth with a specific and profound purpose. Not a world, but a tool. Its charcoal gray, non-reflective surface might not have been rock, but an absorbent material designed for stealth or energy collection. Its strange departure was not an accident of gravity, but the scheduled completion of a task. If it was a machine, what was its function? Perhaps it was the ultimate terraforming engine, a gravitational shepherd for a young and unruly planet. Its primary role could have been to work in tandem with Luna, their combined forces acting as a powerful brake on Earth's frantic primordial rotation. It may have been designed to churn the magma oceans, dredging heavy metals toward the core, and bringing lighter silicates to the surface, accelerating the formation of a stable crust. In this scenario, Umbra was our world's forgotten midwife, a silent, tireless architect that sculpted our planet's fundamental characteristics, preparing it for the long, slow journey toward complex life. Its work was to create the conditions of stability we now take for granted. Once that stability was achieved, once Earth's spin was slowed to a manageable rate, its axial tilt settled, and its internal dynamo secured, the great machine's purpose would have been fulfilled. Its departure would have been the final, logical step in its programming. It did not crash, nor was it destroyed. It simply disengaged and moved on, its mission complete. This hypothesis transforms the narrative from one of loss to one of profound intention. We are not living in the aftermath of a cosmic accident, but within the finished project of a forgotten, benevolent power. The silence in our sky is not an absence, but the quiet hum of a perfectly executed plan. But who could have been the builders? The mind struggles to conceive of a civilization existing in the hellscape of the Hadean eon. Yet, we assume life must be as we are, carbon-based, fragile, and surface-dwelling. What if the first intelligence on Earth was not like us at all? What if it was a form of life that thrived in the magma oceans, a silicon-based consciousness that saw the planet's molten state not as a barrier, but as a cradle? Or perhaps it was an intelligence born in the crushing pressures of the deep, pre-oceanic mantle. Such a civilization would have been utterly alien to us, its biology and technology built from the very fire and rock of the early Earth. This primordial civilization would have understood planetary mechanics in a way we are only just beginning to grasp, foreseeing that their own molten world was cooling and would eventually become inhospitable to them. They might have constructed Umbra as their final, lasting legacy, a parting gift to the future. Their goal might have been to ensure that as their world died, a new one, suitable for a different kind of life, could be born from the ashes. They were the planet's first parents, sacrificing their own existence to create a stable home for the children they would never know. Our existence, in this view, is the direct result of their foresight and their ultimate silent extinction. This idea, while seemingly fantastical, resonates with the deepest archetypes of human mythology. Nearly every culture on Earth has a creation story that speaks of powerful, unseen beings who shaped the world and then departed. We call them gods, titans, or creators. We tell stories of a golden age of cosmic construction, after which these architects retreated to the heavens, leaving their work behind. Could these myths be a form of profound species-level memory, a faint, distorted echo passed down through billions of years of evolution, of a truth so ancient that it can only be remembered as a dream, the dream of a world built by forgotten hands? Alternatively, what if the intelligence was not from Earth at all? The young solar system was a chaotic place, full of migrating planets and wandering protoplanetary bodies. An ancient, spacefaring civilization, vastly older than our own solar system, may have identified the nascent Earth as a rare and promising candidate for life. They may have seen its potential, but also recognized its violent instabilities. Umbra, in this scenario, was their intervention, a stabilizing device, a planetary anchor left behind by cosmic gardeners to nurture a promising world. They were not our ancestors, but our benefactors, watching from an unimaginable distance. Their reasons would be a mystery to us. Perhaps they were seeding the galaxy with life, and Earth was simply one of many such projects. Or perhaps their motives were more scientific, creating a long-term experiment in planetary evolution. In this version of the story, Umbra's departure was not because its work was done, but because our planet had reached a critical milestone in its development. The garden had taken root, and the gardeners could now step back and allow it to grow on its own. We are not the children of a lost civilization, but the subjects of the longest and most patient experiment in the history of the universe. Let us now consider a darker, more unsettling possibility. What if Umbra's purpose was not benevolent? What if it was not a cradle but a cage? Not a shepherd, but a warden? This hypothesis posits that the early Earth contained something dangerous, a threat not just to its own future, but perhaps to the wider solar system. This could have been a form of primordial life that was inherently destructive, a biological gray goo with the potential to consume the planet. Or it may have been a geological or physical anomaly, a nascent black hole at the planet's core, or a runaway chain reaction in the mantle. In this scenario, an external power, the same ancient intelligence, but with a different motive, intervened not to nurture our world, but to contain it. Umbra was a celestial prison, a massive gravitational dampener designed to suppress this internal threat. Its dark, non-reflective surface was not for stealth, but was a shield, absorbing dangerous energies radiating from within the planet. It orbited our world for hundreds of millions of years, a silent, watchful guardian, holding a planetary-scale apocalypse in check. The chaotic tides it created were merely a side effect of its true, awesome function, to keep a monster locked in its terrestrial cage. The slow, gentle departure of Umbra then signifies something terrifyingly profound. It means the threat was finally neutralized. After eons of suppression, the dangerous life form was extinguished, or the geological anomaly stabilized and burned itself out. The warden was no longer needed. The quarantine was lifted. The external power simply recalled its sentinel, its job complete. Our world's subsequent tranquility, the very peace that allowed our own form of life to flourish, was only possible because a far older and more dangerous form of existence was defeated. We are not living in a garden. We are living in a pacified prison yard. This cosmic quarantine hypothesis provides a chilling context for some of geology's greatest mysteries. The great unconformity, that billion-year gap in the rock record, could be the scar left behind by the final battle against this internal threat. The final neutralization of the anomaly may have caused a planet-wide convulsion, a geological reset that scoured the continents clean. We are living on the quiet, healed-over surface of a former war zone, blissfully unaware of the ancient conflict that was fought and won in the very heart of our world, a conflict whose outcome determined our own possibility of existence. The idea of our world as a guarded place, a site of cosmic intervention, is profoundly unsettling. If exploring these challenging possibilities is what draws you to these mysteries, consider subscribing to continue the journey with us. Each question we ask about our past reshapes our understanding of the present. The truth of Umbra, whatever it may be, is not just about a lost moon. It is about the fundamental nature of our own home, forcing us to ask whether our planet is a cradle, a project, or a cage. A third path of speculation leads us away from intelligent intervention and toward a different kind of cosmic purpose, one rooted in the very laws of the universe. What if the Earth-Luna-Umbra system was part of a natural, albeit unknown, cycle of galactic creation? Consider the concept of panspermia, the theory that life is distributed throughout the universe on meteoroids and comets. Now, imagine that process in reverse. What if certain rare planets, like the early Earth, are not receivers of life, but creators and exporters? What if our world's true purpose was to be a cradle, not for its own life, but for the life of the galaxy? In this hypothesis, Umbra was a cosmic vessel, a natural collector. Its composition, rich in carbon and with a porous, non-reflective surface, made it a perfect sponge for the complex organic molecules being forged in Earth's primordial chemical soup. For millions of years, it orbited through the planet's thick, outgassing atmosphere and the spray of its boiling oceans, accumulating the unique building blocks of terrestrial life. It was not a machine built by anyone. It was a natural moon with the perfect properties for a specific cosmic function, to collect the seeds of life from a fertile world. Its slow outward spiral was not a decay of orbit, but a form of cosmic ripening. Once it had gathered a sufficient cargo of prebiotic materials, it reached a critical point. Perhaps it was a resonance with the galactic core, or an alignment with a deep space gravitational current, but something called it away. It detached from Earth's embrace and began its long, slow journey into interstellar space. It was a cosmic dandelion, and its purpose was to be blown by the galactic winds, destined to eventually break apart and scatter the seeds of Earth-based life among countless nascent, barren star systems. This theory reframes our existence in a humbling and awe-inspiring way. The loss of Umbra was not a tragedy for Earth, but a gift to the cosmos. Our planet served as a point of origin, a successful genesis that provided the raw materials for life elsewhere. The loneliness of our moon is the price we paid for being a successful parent to potential life across the galaxy. We may look out into the universe and feel alone, but we are surrounded by our potential cosmic siblings, life that may have sprung from the very same chemical heritage, delivered to their worlds by the ghosts that once graced our own sky. This would mean that the unique conditions of the two-moon Earth, the chaotic tides, the extreme volcanism, the thick atmosphere, were all necessary components of this seed-generating process. The violence was productive. It was the engine that created the complex chemistry worth exporting. Life on Earth, our own evolutionary line, was simply a secondary consequence of this grander cosmic function. We are the life that happened to grow in the garden after the first and most important harvest had already been taken, destined for shores unknown. Each of these hypotheses, the Great Machine, the Cosmic Quarantine, and the Galactic Seed, is a story we tell to make sense of a profound and ancient silence. They are attempts to fill a 4-billion-year-old void with meaning, to give a narrative shape to a ghost. They move beyond simple mechanics and touch upon the deeper questions of purpose, intention, and our ultimate place in the universe. We cannot prove any of them, but the act of considering them changes our relationship with the sky. They transform the moon from a simple satellite into a lonely survivor, a monument to a lost companion. The truth of Umbra's departure may be a combination of these ideas, or something else entirely beyond our current capacity to imagine. It could be that advanced intelligences use natural cosmic cycles to achieve their aims, turning a galactic seed into a deliberate act of directed panspermia. Or perhaps the Great Machine was not built to help us, but to repair a geological flaw that could have threatened its own creators in another part of the galaxy. The possibilities branch into an infinite, speculative tree, each limb offering a different vision of our deepest past. What is certain is that the discovery of Umbra has created a new origin story for humanity. We are no longer the children of a simple, stable, and predictable world. We are the descendants of a chaotic, two-hearted planet, a world that underwent a profound transformation we are only just beginning to comprehend. Our existence is predicated on a fundamental change in the architecture of our solar system, a change that has left behind only the faintest of geological and mathematical whispers. We are the children of the quiet that followed a storm. This search for answers is not just about understanding a lost celestial body, it is about understanding ourselves. By exploring these speculative histories, we are exploring the nature of creation, loss, and survival. We are confronting the possibility that our world was engineered, contained, or harvested. Each hypothesis forces us to reconsider the assumption that humanity is the sole or primary purpose of our planet. We may be a beautiful accident, a secondary outcome of a drama that was far grander and more ancient than our own. The ghost of Umbra serves as a powerful metaphor for the nature of scientific discovery itself. We live within a universe of incomplete knowledge, surrounded by the gravitational pull of things we cannot see. We build our models and tell our stories based on the available light, but we must always be aware of the vast, dark spaces between the stars, spaces that may hold the missing pieces of our own narrative. The anomalies are the key, the whispers from the dark that tell us our story is not yet finished. And so we are left to look up at our solitary moon with new eyes. We see not just a silver disk in the velvet black, but a survivor, a twin, a silent witness to a departure that redefined a world. The empty space beside it is no longer empty. It is a canvas for our imagination, a repository for our deepest questions about where we came from and why we are here. The ghost of Umbra does not haunt us with fear, but with a profound and humbling sense of wonder. The silence it left behind is not a void, but a resonance. It is the quiet hum of a deep and ancient mystery, a question whispered across 4 billion years. The search for Umbra is a reminder that the most profound truths are often not found in the bright, obvious signals, but in the subtle patterns hidden within the noise, in the faint, persistent ache of a phantom limb that reminds a planet of a time when it was not alone in the dark. The confirmation of Umbra's existence is more than a scientific breakthrough. It is the fracturing of our most fundamental creation myth. We have always seen ourselves as the children of a stable, consistent world, a planet whose life-giving qualities were a birthright, an initial stroke of cosmic luck. That story is now gone, replaced by a far more dramatic and unsettling narrative. We are not the inheritors of a peaceful garden, but the survivors of a chaotic crucible. Our planet's tranquility was not a gift, but an achievement born from a profound and mysterious loss. This knowledge recasts our entire history, transforming us from the chosen occupants of a perfect world into the accidental beneficiaries of a cosmic amputation, a species that could only begin its journey after the planet's first violent heartbeat was silenced. This forces us to redefine the very meaning of stability. The gentle ebb and flow of our tides, the predictable 24-hour day, the stable axial tilt that grants us our seasons. We have long held these as the primordial constants that made our existence possible. Now we must see them as they truly are, the consequences of an ancient departure. They are the quiet that followed a storm. Our world had to be broken, or at least fundamentally simplified, before it could become a cradle. Our existence is predicated on that loss, on the silencing of that second, chaotic gravitational voice. We are here not because of what our planet had, but because of what it lost. A humbling realization that places absence, not abundance, at the core of our genesis. With this new history comes an inescapable and haunting question. What kind of world would exist if Umbra had remained? What forms of life might have thrived in a world of perpetual twilight, churned by violent competing tides? Perhaps intelligence would have arisen not on land, but in the crushing depths of a chaotic ocean, its biology forged by pressures we can barely imagine. Our own evolution, with its reliance on stable ground and predictable cycles of light, may have been an impossibility in that older, wilder Earth. We are, therefore, a species defined by an absence. Our very form, our senses, our consciousness, all are tailored to a world with one moon. We are the living embodiment of a choice made by the cosmos 4 billion years ago. The speculative hypotheses about Umbra's nature now carry a far greater weight, moving from intellectual exercises to profound questions about our place in the universe. If Umbra was a great terraforming machine, then our world is an engineered artifact, and our existence is the result of a forgotten cosmic purpose. If it was a celestial warden, then our planet was once a prison, and our freedom to evolve was secured by an unknown, ancient power. This knowledge strips the cosmos of its perceived randomness. The sky is no longer a canvas of accidental beauty, but a potential testament to intention, a place of architects and gardeners, of wardens and silent observers. We may be living inside a project whose ultimate goal remains terrifyingly and wonderfully unknown. This discovery offers a new, poignant answer to our cosmic loneliness. The Fermi paradox asks, where is everybody? Perhaps the answer is that the universe is not silent, but that the conditions required for our specific, slow-paced form of intelligent life are extraordinarily rare. Perhaps most life-bearing worlds retain their chaotic primordial systems. They may be too violent, too unstable for complex civilizations to ever gain a foothold. It could be that the Great Filter is not a future obstacle, but a past event, the necessary loss of a celestial companion to tame a world. Our solitude among the stars may be the price we paid for the tranquility that allowed us to exist at all, making our quiet solar system a rare exception in a galaxy of storms. We can no longer look at the Earth in the same way. The planet itself becomes a historical document, its features read with new meaning. The great unconformity, that billion-year gap in the rock record, is no longer just a geological curiosity. It is a potential scar, the physical evidence of Umbra's final, world-altering departure. The ancient cratons, the stable hearts of our continents, are not just old rocks, but islands of memory that survive the chaos. We walk upon a healed wound, a landscape whose deepest features were sculpted by a gravitational power that has been absent for nearly all of history. The ground beneath our feet is haunted, holding the faint geological echo of a world that was fundamentally different from our own. Could this profound truth be remembered in some deeper, more primal way? Nearly every human culture tells myths of creation, of powerful beings who shaped the heavens and the earth before departing. We speak of a lost golden age, of titans who battled in the sky, of a world forged from chaos by divine hands. Perhaps these are not mere fictions, but a form of deep, species-level memory, a faint, archetypal echo, passed down not through language but through the very blueprint of life, of a time when the sky was more crowded. A dream of two moons, a truth so ancient and so overwhelming that it could only be preserved in the symbolic language of myth, a whisper from the dawn of life itself. This new understanding of our past fundamentally reshapes the future of our exploration. Our search for extraterrestrial life has long been a search for a mirror image of ourselves, a planet like Earth, orbiting a star like the Sun, with a moon like Luna. But now we know to look for something more. We must search for the survivors, for the worlds that show the telltale signs of a past instability. We will scan distant solar systems, not just for what is there, but for what might be missing. A planet with an unusually slow rotation, a strangely stable axis, or the faint chemical signature of a lost companion. These will become the new beacons in our search, the signs of a world that may have undergone its own cosmic amputation. The emotional weight of this discovery is immense. The empty space in our night sky is no longer a simple void, it is a presence, a memorial to a lost sibling. When we look up at our solitary moon, we are no longer just seeing a celestial body. We are engaging in an act of remembrance for a companion we never knew we had. This transforms our relationship with the night, infusing it with a sense of profound, melancholic awe. The loneliness we once projected onto our moon was, in fact, real. It is a solitary survivor, a silent witness to a departure that redefined its world, and its quiet, silver light is a 4-billion-year-old eulogy. This reframes humanity's role in the cosmic story in a deeply humbling way. If we accept the possibility that Umbra was a galactic seed, then our world's primary purpose may have already been fulfilled eons before we arrived. The chaotic two-moon system was a crucible for creating the complex organic building blocks of life, which were then harvested and scattered across the galaxy. Our own evolutionary journey, then, becomes a secondary consequence, a beautiful and intricate afterthought. We are the wildflowers that grew in the field long after the primary harvest was taken. We are not the point of the story, but a surprising epilogue, a testament to the enduring fertility of our planetary garden. Our entire conception of time and progress, a linear march from the simple to the complex, is thrown into question. The history of our world began not with a gradual addition, but with a profound subtraction. The system had to be simplified, its chaotic elements removed, before the slow, patient work of complex evolution could begin. This suggests a universal principle we have overlooked, that sometimes, for creation to advance, the universe must first take something away. Loss becomes a creative force, and absence becomes a form of architecture. Our world is not built upon what was, but upon the space left behind, a testament to the generative power of a void. In this new light, Luna is transformed. It is no longer just a passive satellite, a lump of rock caught in our gravity. It is the surviving twin, the silent keeper of a memory that its larger, geologically active sibling has long since erased. Its ancient, unchanging face, pockmarked with the craters of 1 billion years, is a history book written in a language of impact and shadow. It holds the dust of Umbra in its frozen core, carrying the only direct physical evidence of the world that was. It maintains its lonely vigil, a constant, silver reminder of a time when it did not dance alone, its presence a quiet promise that the past is never truly gone. And so, we are left with a new, foundational mystery. The discovery of Umbra's existence has answered the question of what, but it has opened the far deeper and more resonant question of why. Why did it leave? Was it a programmed departure, a cosmic intervention, or a natural process we do not yet comprehend? This single question will now drive our science, our philosophy, and our art for generations to come. The search for the physical ghost of Umbra is over, but the quest to understand its meaning, to decipher the intention or accident behind its departure, has only just begun. It is the ultimate inheritance of a species that just learned its true family history. This knowledge forever alters our personal relationship with the night. Gazing into the darkness is no longer a passive act of observation. It is a communion with a deep and resonant history. The blackness between the stars is not emptiness. It is a canvas that holds the ghost of a lost world. The quiet of a clear night is not silence. It is the peaceful aftermath of a primordial storm, the gentle rhythm of a planet whose double heartbeat has settled into a solitary, steady pulse. We are listening to the resonance of an ancient absence, and in that quiet, we can almost feel the gravitational pull of what was lost. Ultimately, we are forced to see ourselves as the children of a quieted storm. We live and breathe in the gentle world made possible by a profound departure, our every action unfolding in the shadow of a celestial ghost. Whether our world was a garden nurtured by a great machine, a prison pacified by a cosmic warden, or a cradle whose first child was sent to the stars, the result is the same. We live in the aftermath. We are the inheritors of a singular moon and a profound solitude, and so we will forever look up at the night sky, seeing not just the silver disk of Luna, but the vast, empty space beside it, a space that is not a void, but a memory. And so, we return to where we began, beneath the silent gaze of a solitary moon, but the sky is no longer the same. The emptiness we once saw as a simple, primordial truth is now filled with a profound and resonant absence. The confirmation of Umbra does more than add a footnote to our history. It rewrites the opening chapter. We are no longer the children of a world born into gentle stability, but the inheritors of a quiet that was purchased by a forgotten loss. The loneliness of our moon is not a metaphor, but a memory. Every silver ray of light that falls upon our world is a reminder of a time when it did not shine alone, a 4-billion-year-old eulogy for a lost twin whose ghost is now, finally, seen. This new origin story forces us to look inward, to question the very nature of our own existence. We are a species uniquely adapted to a world of gentle tides, predictable seasons, and a steady singular rhythm. Our consciousness was forged in the calm that followed a primordial storm. What does it mean, then, to be a life form defined by an absence? Is our capacity for reflection, for art, for wondering about the stars, a direct consequence of the silence Umbra left behind? We are the children of the second act, arriving on a stage that was violently cleared for us. Our entire history has unfolded in the gravitational shadow of a body we never knew, our evolution guided by a phantom limb in the sky. The search for Umbra's physical form may be over, but the quest to understand its meaning, to decipher the purpose or accident behind its departure, has only just begun. It is a mystery that extends beyond geology and astrophysics, touching the realms of philosophy and myth. The questions it raises are the very ones that define our channel and our shared journey into the unknown. If you wish to continue exploring these deep echoes of time, and to seek the stories hidden in the silence between worlds, Consider subscribing and joining us as we listen for the next whisper from the past. For every answer we find only reveals a deeper, more beautiful question waiting in the dark. This journey leaves us standing at the shore of a cosmic ocean, humbled by the depth of what we do not know. The universe, we are reminded, is not a story written for us, but one in which we are a brief, and perhaps accidental, verse. The departure of a second moon may have been the act of a cosmic gardener, a celestial warden, or simply an unknown law of physics playing out on a planetary scale. We may never have the final answer, but the act of asking, of imagining, of piecing together the ghost from its faintest shadows, changes us. It transforms our relationship with our own world, turning the ground beneath our feet into a historical artifact and the sky above our heads into a memorial. So tonight, when you look up into the velvet black, see not one moon, but the memory of two. See the survivor, and see the space where its companion once danced. Listen not to the silence of the void, but to the quiet, steady rhythm of a planet's solitary heartbeat. What dreams does a world have of a sky it has forgotten? What songs did the ancient oceans sing to its silver titan and its dark phantom twin? The answers are not written in our stars, but are whispered in the quiet, contemplative space of our own wonder. A lullaby from a lost and beautiful beginning.